Welcome everyone for the release webinar for Curity Identity Server version 11.1. I'm Daniel, Principal Engineer at Curity, replacing Jacob today. And with me I have Chief Engineer Renato.
Hello there.
So 11.1 is a kind of a big release, but not with that many new features, but a long list of enhancements and corrections that we're going to go through. Any notes on the release already now, Renato?
Yeah, well, just to mention that following up on the 11.0, which was a really big release with lots of new features. Yeah, this is us taking the time to clean it up a little bit and, just make sure that we don't only focus on new things. We always try to keep everything clean and working well. And yeah, we try to focus on those things in this release, and as you will see soon.
Yeah. So the highlight section is a bit slim this time, but it contains a lot of improvements. But also one thing worthy of mentioning is that now the ephemeral clients can also be public clients. In 11.0, they needed to have an authentication method published, but we saw that many agents really wanted to go with the public track. So we gave in and allowed them to do that. And that means the trust will be more on the TLS endpoint where the metadata document is stored rather than the authentication method of the clients. But let's go through the list. So we have a big list of enhancements and also some corrections, but we'll go from the top. So first of all, is an admin web UI improvement. So we have an info button for authentication service and token service before, where we can find things like the issuer string, and for clients we sometimes have example requests so that you easily can start running. We didn't have one for the SAML service before. Now we added one. Can give you a quick view of it, I think. Yes, I have a SAML profile here. So we can see here that we now have an info button telling us what the issuer is and the metadata, the URL for this profile, so we can easily find those. A small improvement, but comes very handy when you're setting up the system. Next one, changing the default options for the token profile in the wizard. So resource owner password credential is a flow that, well, it's been deprecated since OAuth 2, more or less, but in OAuth 2.1, they highly recommend you to stop using it. So we will keep supporting it, but now it's not default on in our wizards. So not only changes to existing configurations, but if you set up a new profile with using the wizard, the RPC will be default off.
Yeah, the wizard is we are trying to nudge customers to go in the right direction with the wizards, so it doesn't really make sense to have that kind of deprecated option there. And the other thing we changed was the token exchange. We used to support for a long time a non-standard way of performing token exchange, but since token exchange was standardized properly, we also support that, and that's what we are now suggesting in the wizard. So it's just doing a little bit of a few updates there on the wizard.
Yeah, good point. There are still two options for token exchange in the server, but the default, the legacy one, will be turned off, which hopefully will cause less confusion between the two.
Yes.
Next, also admin UI. Clicking on client authentication on edit client overview does not scroll down to section. So this is purely a UX improvement. We have a few places where you click and the page scroll down to the correct section, but in this case, I think we didn't scroll at all, but now we do.
Yeah.
Uh, Icons for plugins in admin UI should be loaded from admin icons. A very techy title for saying that we
Yeah,
changed the routing pretty much.
yeah. This was a feature introducing 11.0 so that you can have custom icons for plugins. All plugins now support that. And we just noticed that we were serving them from the root path of the admin UI endpoint or the base URL, sorry. And that may cause problem if you have a proxy to the actual admin UI. And because all of the other endpoints are inside the admin path, we decided to also put icons there. Shouldn't cause any problems to anyone, but it's worth mentioning the path changed. Hopefully the browser didn't cache that, but could happen the icons fail to load. Then you know what it is.
Yeah. And we saw that with a few installations that had that proxy situation where they proxy everything under admin to the admin service. But since the icons folder was outside of it, all the icons disappeared from the admin UI. So this should make the routing simpler for those situations. Uh, Next, restore debug action tile coloring. So this is just something that we missed when we transferred all of the SDK icons in the admin UI.
Yeah.
So we fixed the debug a bit. Alarms had configuration to disable failed connection alarms on HTTP clients. So this, well, first of all, the alarms we light up alarms when components in our system fail to communicate in some cases. And the HTTP clients has many different switches that we can control this alarming so that you don't get too many alarms when when you should be expecting them. And some customers have requested to be able to disable the failed connection alarms, probably because they know that their service is shaky and produces this their backend service. I mean, is producing these alarms a bit too often, so they want to turn them off and not be waking up in the middle of the night because of it.
Yeah.
But they will still be default on. It's just the possibility to turn it off.
It's just, it might be worthwhile mentioning that there is a very similar switch already, but that only turned off alarm for error codes. And this one now also allow you to separately disable for, in the case of actual connection error, not just a status code, but the connection actually failed.
Right. Yeah, and that's true. We had the possibility to turn off for things like 400. But now
Yeah,
when we failed to connect, there is still an alarm that wasn't able, you weren't able to suppress it, but
exactly.
now you are. Okay. Similar subject, allow configuring the license expiration. Uh, so license, you will get a warning before the license expires. You will get a warning in the dashboard, and that will trigger your alarm subsystems if you're pushing it somewhere else. So now you can be a bit more granular of when you're getting these alarms.
So yeah, I believe we allow all the thresholds to be changed. I don't remember exactly which ones, but there is one before 1 week and one before a few days and so on. So you can change those boundaries.
Yeah, that's good. In Happy, allow hiding log message from web attestation iframe. So I believe that this is when you're using the web Happy driver, there were some console messages that was not possible to suppress. We had
Yep.
the switch of debug log on or off, but even if you turn it off, it showed you a few messages. But now we can get away from all of them if you want to.
Yeah, and it's actually the default now, so we turned it off by
Yes.
default.
All right, test that. Yeah, makes sense. Uh, Authentication setting. Allow using display name as auto login identifier after WebAuth and passkeys credential is created. So this is in a WebAuthn or passkey authenticator, you were able to configure to use display name instead of the subject when you're using a passkey, which means that you can configure the string that the user sees in the browser UI. But after the user registered, we have a auto login button says continue to log in as Daniel. That always used the subject. But this fixed now. It produces the display name there instead of the subject if we configured it. So a bit better UI for you.
Yeah.
SMTP email sender, a possibility to override message ID header not going emails.
Yeah, this one I can mention just that you can only override the domain part of the message ID header, which is one of those headers that make part of the email message, the whole email message itself. But we still, of course, keep the unique parts of each of the message ID. So you can just basically select what's the domain that you want to have in the message ID instead of using the host name that where the Curity node is actually running, because that might not be what you want to expose externally.
Yeah, that's good. That's gonna solve a few workarounds we have with our customers. So that's good. Next is in the OpenID Connect authenticator. Add key info when a symmetrically signed JOT is used for client authentication. So when you're using private key JOT with Entra, they require you to put in an X5T claim in the JOT header. And it wasn't there before, but now in all the private key JOTs produced by this authenticator, that claim will be there, making it possible to use with Entra. So small change, but a good improvement. Next authenticator, SMS one. Store phone numbers verified after SMS authentication. So in our account model, we're following the SCIM model mainly, and there's an attribute called verified that you can set on emails and phone numbers and other types of attributes. So for the phone number, we never set the verified attribute unless explicitly done by some action or something. But now we can configure it to do that when you actually prove the ownership of the phone number. So using the authentication flow, you can get that attribute set.
Because it's kind of implicitly you verified it because you managed to authenticate. So it's an implicit thing that happened, and now you are verified because if you're able to authenticate, you obviously own the number.
Yeah, and we did the similar thing during registration. If you use the registration action and register a phone number, we set that as verified. But if the phone number was imported from some other system and without this flag, then we can now update it to be verified in authentication as well.
Yeah.
And next one, configuration, fix the management of thread pool use in RESTconf. I know you know well.
Yeah, this is I would say that unfortunately the message here, the title here doesn't describe exactly what we did, but what happened was that after a configuration change, the thread pool used by our implementation of the RESTconf API would create a new we would create a new thread pool, but the previous thread pool was not properly closed. Unfortunately for us, Java did not garbage collect the thread pool itself, which means that the threads would be in memory. And if you do a lot of configuration changes at runtime, after a certain period, you might run out of threads basically, or even memory. And when that happens, it could cause the nodes to become unresponsive. And yes, so we fixed that so that every time the configuration changes, we discard the previous thread pool, but we close it properly before we do that. So there is no more. It's a classical memory leak, basically.
Yeah, good improvement, and we had a few support cases on it, so it's good to get it fixed.
Yeah.
Next one then, improve database management documentation. And not only documentation, but we're also making the JWKS username and password optional when using Liquidbase.
Yeah.
In some situations, you don't have the username and password for the data source, namely Kerberos or some other setups. Now it's optional.
It's just the authentication itself is handled externally, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, before you would have to set both of them, even if you set it to empty. But obviously, you know, like it's if it's not required at all for your case, we just allow you to not set it in the first place.
Yeah. Good. In the DevOps dashboard, create UI for editing additional account attributes. Yeah, so in the DevOps dashboard, we have the possibility to edit a user account or add user accounts. But now also, if you've added custom attributes into your account, it's now possible to edit them from the dashboard. It was always possible over the APIs, but now we just created a UI for it, which might be useful for some. Front-end templates, modernize Curity UI JS. Like this is the JavaScript we use internally for our templates. Not internally, but we share it across templates. And we modernize.
It's mostly some helper functions and basic utilities, right?
Yeah. I'm not sure what modernizing the syntax is, if it's switching to arrow functions or what it is, but it's just an update and a cleanup of the library that we use ourselves. Update Node.js version for the templates. So this is for the GitHub repo we have with our templates and the self-service portal, things like that. We streamlined the Node.js version and made it easier to build different products using the same Node version. And a new mutation for GraphQL, clearing bucket entries. This is so that you can keep a bucket, but with empty value, pretty much. So before we had the delete bucket mutation, so that you delete the full entry, but now we can keep the bucket, but with no value. Because in some situations it might be good to have a tri-state where the bucket exists means something, but it having a value meaning something else.
But just one correction I need to make here is that we ended up not allowing just clear, but what we did was allow update, because we came to the conclusion that if you want to clear it, you might also want to update, and clearing is just a subset of updates. And what we ended up with was with the actual update operation, where you just, if you want to clear it, you just send it empty data, and that's how you clear it. But because of that, it should have been mentioned here. It's an update operation, actually. Sorry for that.
We should update the description, but the result of it is the same. You're now able to clear a bucket you weren't before, but now you're also possible to update the bucket, and I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah. And in the Java SDK, expose SSO session ID in authenticated sessions. So the SSO sessions is a SDK object you can use in authenticators to inspect your sessions with other authenticators in your plugin. Now this contains an ID so that you can identify the different sessions. And these two tickets, they come hand in hand. because we kind of have a use case to be able to track these SSO session IDs in buckets and being able to blacklist them so that you can force a log out of an SSO ID, or more or less.
Yes,
Will be
exactly. And one more correction, unfortunately. It's authenticated sessions, plural. If you look at the SDK type, there is both the session and sessions, and this should have been sessions here. Sorry for that.
That's probably my fault, though. I think I wrote that.
Yeah. Yeah, because we are talking about an ID for all of the sessions, so that's why it's in the session collection, basically.
But there's more on that in the SDK docs, more correct ones. Metrics, support metrics for HTTP client cache miss and cache hit. So this is just a new previous metric that's on the metrics endpoint, and so it's possible to put up on Grafana, for instance. Add redirect URI policies for ephemeral clients. So we have redirect URI validation policies for configuration and database clients, but now the ephemeral ones can do the same thing. Add support for the login hint token parameter in SIBA. So the login hint token is a standard parameter that is not used within Curity. We use the login hint exclusively, but this ticket does is just making it available for the plugin SDK, so that you can make a plugin that uses the login hint token that you're sending. So, for instance, if you have an ID token from before, you can manage it in the plugin and take other decisions based on it. So you will get the token as is to the authenticator plugin. Fix ephemeral clients cache persistence across configuration changes. So ephemeral clients are we do keep a reference in the DB, but we also cache them to make it easier to. So no, don't have to look them for every time we use them, but they were wiped every time we reconfigured the server, and now we don't. A bit of a performance improvement.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just that when we change configuration, we do some cleanup and stuff that we remove stuff that is not used anymore. And in this case, we just didn't transfer the cache to be reused, and obviously it should be reused because it's there is no reason configuration change that you need to evict the ephemeral client from the cache.
No.
And by the way, as you will see, there's quite a few follow-up ephemeral client fixes here.
Good. Yeah, but let's take the PAR one before. So PAR authorization point request does not allow query parameters. So the PAR specification does not really say anything about extra query parameters that you're not allowed to send, but the FOPI profile does. It says that if you have the unknown parameters in the request, you should deny them. So that's what we have implemented before. But if you're using things like the Microsoft PAR library that is also using OpenTelemetry, we'll add on OpenTelemetry parameters to the requests. So we added a switch to relax this check so that you will no longer be FOPI compliant on that endpoint, but we can use the OpenTelemetry from well-known libraries, which might be useful in many cases.
So now ephemeral clients.
Now ephemeral or JWKS client.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a new authentication method. I guess private key JWT with the key on that JWT.
Yeah, it's again, it's just something that we always supported in the other kinds of clients, and the ephemeral clients was not supporting everything from the beginning, and we are trying to add support for things as we go. So this is one of those.
Yeah. And the next one, support public ephemeral clients mentioned in the highlights.
Right.
Yeah, it's with public we mean no authentication. So we can they don't supply you with authentication methods, but are now able to interface with Curity. The support require ID token encryption for ephemeral clients. So that means we can turn it on server side so that the ephemeral clients must use encrypted ID tokens. Right. You need to stop me if I'm lying.
No, it's no, I would have said something if I knew there was something wrong. Don't worry.
Procedures, add link method to script account manager. Yeah, the full SDK account manager always had a method to link user accounts, and now we made it available for the script version of it. So the one that is being injected in procedure context. I don't remember a procedure right now. The transformation procedure, script action. Can it have an action? No. No, but the event listener procedure can have an account manager. So in an
we
event,
we do document which ones.
yeah.
So yeah, check the documentation if necessary. But yeah, but if you have access to it in your procedure, you can now call link, which is not something that we can verify. So it has to be used very carefully, because this involves an external provider. So you need to know exactly what you're doing to be able to link accounts to external providers. But because it was already possible in our products, and there are certain use cases where you do need to do this in your own procedure because you must, customize the flow a little bit better. And we try to make our procedures as useful as possible, so everything can be done with custom logic. That's why this method has been added.
Yes. SAML service. Add single sign-on service entry for holder of key in the SAML IDP metadata. So this is about the holder of key being a mutual TLS endpoint. So it's slightly different than the authentication endpoint. So now we list that as a single sign-on service in the SAML metadata.
Yeah.
Servant enrich credential manager events with OAuth client information. All right. Yeah, when using the events, things like failed credential verification or successful credential verification, we've added on the information of the client that initiated the request, which might be useful for logging purposes or like that.
Yeah, we try to make sure that anything that happens where a client was involved or may be involved, because there are in certain cases there may not be an OAuth client because you're doing just authentication, but we are trying to add information about that. And I can say, as a sneak peek for the next release, we will also add this information in a few more events that happen on the authentication profile side.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, the more events, the more information in events is probably useful. Here, allow path parameters in plugin request handle paths. This is very
I
good.
can mention.
Yeah,
because this like when you register endpoints in your plugins, it had to be fully hard coded, so the path has to be known exactly. But there were many use cases where you want the path itself to contain certain variables instead of just being able to provide query parameters or send information in the body. So for that reason, we decided to implement this where you can, very similar to frameworks that you might be using for implementing APIs, where you have path parameters with the colon symbol. So if we see in a path that you register in a plugin column, so for example, column name, then you will be able to route to that path where the name will be a variable, and you get the variable from the request object, which is very very handy
Very useful.
if you need it.
Yeah, I ran into this last week implementing a plugin where I wanted it to act like an API, and I started
Mm,
asking around.
yep.
It's already implemented. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, we used to say that the more features we add to our plugins, especially the request handler, the more it starts looking like a web framework. And we
Yeah,
didn't like too much that, but it is what it is. It is we are like acting almost as a framework for plugins to run,
yeah,
and so we need to just accept that and provide nice features like that.
yeah, yeah. This is a nice one. I'm gonna use it next week.
Yeah,
Uh, Prevent big sessions being stored in the database. So this is a kind of a weird one. But if you have authentication sessions that grow too big, uh, the the sessions don't clear up themselves, and if they get too big, the database or the persistence layer might say no because it's too big, and that would cause a 500 for the user and might trigger alarms or any other notifications being sent. But sessions growing this big is most likely exceptional and
yeah,
might or it's probably a sign of attack for some reason. So we instead, when it grows too big, we stop persisting and respond with a 400. So if the user ends up in that situation, just needs to restart the authentication flow. But it's most likely not a user ending up in this situation.
mm.
Uh,
And by the
the
way, I know that it's the second time now I will mention the next Curity release, but in the next Curity release, we will have a tool to allow you to inspect the sessions, and it will be very useful if you could actually try that soon, if you have this kind of problem, so that you can see what is inside the set. You can see there might be private information there, so it's it's a sensitive thing, but you will be able to inspect the sessions and see what may be the problem. So just so you know, for if you want
yeah,
this early, just let me know. We can send you. Just open a ticket in
yeah,
support.
that's good. So that marks the end of the enhancements section. We're moving into corrections. Just gonna did so still a long list, so maybe speed up a little bit.
Yeah.
Uh, Admin web UI is we added the OAuth tools redirect URI shouldn't trigger validation pop-up. We have a button in the UI where you can conveniently add the OAuth tools redirects directly if you're testing something out. That triggered a pop-up in some cases, so it's fixed. Uh, Another slight admin UI fix where if you created a SAML profile on the profile page where we list the swim lanes of all our profiles, the same profile could then be shown twice,
Hmm.
I believe it was. Uh,
This next one I can mention
yeah.
fixed generation upgrade scripts for our JDBC database. This is the liquid base generation. We there is an option there that allows you to just print a full SQL statement. Unfortunately, there was some problems with that generation that it might not work correctly. So even though that's an optional feature because you can still just run the script, it will work properly. But if you wanted to actually run the SQL in the database, then it might not have worked because we were not generated some. I don't remember exactly what it was, but we're not generating the exact correct SQL to be run by the engine, and that has been fixed in this version.
That's great. Alarming resource link from DevOps dashboard not working. So if there was an alarm and a developer logged into the dashboard, they would see the alarm, but it show you the wrong link to the alarm. So you weren't able to see it as expected. So that should be fixed now. Back button not working when editing client capabilities. I think that the back button has had a CSS problem, hiding it behind some other buttons. You couldn't actually click it, but it's now correctly positioned. Still DevOps dashboard, JWKS authentication method and secondary authentication method appends random characters in text field. So if you're pasting in a JWKS in a text field, there might be some characters appended to the end, which could cause validation problems, but those should be gone. Fix errors in user management, GraphQL, and skim when username email is enabled on account manager. I don't remember exactly what happened here. Do you remember, Renato?
Yeah, I think there was bad handling of the email address itself when this option was enabled. I think in some cases we didn't return the appropriate email because of we need to handle this especially in the code. And if I remember correctly, we were trying to do something incorrect when this option was enabled, where the email would not be returned correctly. So you might have the wrong information there for the list of emails. So
yeah, right. You changed your email address, and then the old email address ended up in the list of emails, but it should just be
exactly. Yeah, that's what was happening there. So, but yeah, it's a bit tricky to handle this option properly, but hopefully it's all correct now.
Yeah. No, what I mentioned is the next one. Stale email persisted on username update when username is enabled in GraphQL.
Oh, yeah, so it's very related.
Very related. That probably had the same cause. Username should now be possible to change as well. Here, open connect, fix error present missing or invalid not being translated. Yeah, so that's just a message key in both the token exchange flow that was not localizable. And messages are correct instead. Fix validation request object method data. So we could configure in Ephemeral Clients that we allow request objects. So now it should be correctly validated. I'm not sure what it validated wrong before. Self-service, improve error handling when changing a phone number. Better error handling. Doesn't say much about what errors could happen, but we improved at least. When changing your phone number. So if you enter the wrong number and go back and things like that, the error handling should be improved. And some more events created as SSO session events is missing all client ID in nested authentications. So a nested authenticator is using prerequisite or using conditional or opt-in MFA actions to trigger a second factor. And in those cases, the SSO event did not contain the client and profile, it says. So now it should be correctly added.
So I can talk about that one. It's when you send a HTTP request to the server, we need to parse the accept header, which has a syntax that like normally you want to send a valid accept header, but it so happened that certain clients may send invalid headers, header values. And in those cases, unfortunately, our parser was being strict and it was failing the request with a 500. We changed that so that we will actually ignore the header and essentially we replace it with accept anything because it may be hard for in certain cases to change the client to send a correct header. And so we need to be a little bit tolerant of client errors like that.
Yeah. I have heard of misbehaving client libraries, so it's good to be a bit more lenient.
Yeah.
Uh,
it can be old phones or things like that, where you just cannot change them.
Well, fortunately not.
Yeah.
Node connectivity issues after HSM changes.
I can also just this is a customers using HSM normally works, but there is a problem where it may restart the HTTP server every time you reconfigure anything basically. Not anything, but certain things that affect how we reload the configuration. But it was doing that much more than it should have been, and this was now fixed so that even when you are using HSM, which is it's just a crypto hardware module that if you need a very high levels of security in certain cases, you might want to use that for the crypto storage of keys and things like that. But yeah, we made a lot of improvements there where if the HTTP server will only restart if it really has to, because it has some impacts on production systems where if we restart the HTTP server, it will cause delays that users may notice that because we need to stop handling requests for a small amount of time and then start the HTTP server and then it starts handling whatever was pending. So it causes a lot of delays if there was loads on the server. And that would cause connectivity issues. That's the chain of events. So because we made it properly not restart the server unless it really has to. So if you, for example, change the SSL key for the server, then obviously we have to restart the server. But only in that case, that kind of case, it will do that. So it should be much more stable now.
That's good. And then another script change. If you're using a script action and using the generic error sending, we've changed the error code or HTTP status code that comes back to 500 instead of 400 because 500 is actually correct. It's a generic error, so it should be 500.
Yeah.
The server fails to start off with plugins icon files not writable. You boot up with a container or something, and we try to read the icons, or we try to overwrite the icons or something like that, and add in an icon from a plugin. This would cause problems when booting up, so we made that handle a bit better.
And just by the way, this had been fixed at the container level in the previous release because the container itself didn't have to lock down that directory where we store icons. So it was already not a problem if you're using our own images. But if you build your own, you may have seen that problem.
Yes. Server process hangs if plugin loading fails. This one I haven't seen.
Yeah, this is how can I say it? You probably will never see that happen. But when we were fixing the previous issue, we noticed that if the plugin loading fails, so the plugin cannot be loaded, for example, because it could not write the icon. Because when it's loading the plugin, we see, oh, the plugin has an icon. I need to write the icon to the file system, and then that fails. This would cause the plugin to not load. And if that happened, the server process would hang instead of continue loading the other plugins, which was a mistake in the error handling of plugin loading. Very rare to see that problem. It only happened because we had this previous bug, which, like I said, also we we had already fixed at the Docker level anyway. But yeah, when this happens, what we actually want to the result is to shut down the server, because if the plugin doesn't load, you would have a lot of errors at runtime anyway, because the plugin, when try to use the plugin, it would not be there. So the correct step here is to shut down that server, so that you cannot miss that there is some error in the plugin.
Good. Normally, invalid plugins don't make it this far. So if you have invalid configuration interface or something like that, you wouldn't end up here. It would have to be a semi-valid plugin for me to be able to get here. So it should be very rare.
Yeah.
But last one then, underscore not escaping scheme queries using like in Postgres. So I guess this is when the underscore character makes it into the query somehow using a skim search request for something similar. But it's
Yeah, I believe it's probably when we translate the scheme filter expression into a SQL query, right? That we would have to escape.
Yeah, so a username using underscore would have tickled this bug probably if you're searching for it in our user management profile. But should be correctly escaped now. Yeah. So that marks the end of the release notes for 11.1. So just to recap, this is a big, it's quite of a big release, but not so heavy in features, but rather in enhancements and corrections. Lots of things with ephemeral clients, lots of UI fixes, and some goodies to pick from. So any closing remarks, Renato?
No, I just want to mention again, the path parameters is a cool feature as well. We should.
Yeah, I'm gonna use it.
Yeah.
Cool. Then thanks for joining me, and we'll see the rest of you at the next release.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Bye.